Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live interview. I'm Susan Wesser, and I'm so excited to welcome to the interview today Melinda Livingstone, who is going to talk about all things morning routine and how having a morning routine can transform our lives and even it can transform our day and it can transform our lives. Welcome, Melinda. It's wonderful to see you today.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about this important topic.
Yes, it is an important topic. It's an exciting topic, and I think we're all going to learn a lot from you. And if anyone, please put your questions and comments for Melinda in the chat. And towards the end, we'll have a Q&A. And if you tell us if you have a morning routine, if you have one but you've encountered any obstacles and need some pointers or inspiration, whatever you want to put in the chat, please talk to us and we can address your question and comment later on. I thought to start off, it would be fabulous, Melinda, if you can tell us a bit about you and your background, because it's an interesting background. So, yeah, fire away.
Thank you, Susan. So my professional background is that I've worked in financial services for more than 20 years now, and I love financial services for two main reasons. The first one is that it's always changing. There's always something new to learn. There's always something to catch up on. And also because financial services play such an important role in people's lives. Um, you know, big decisions are made in the area of financial services, and we can powerfully improve people's lives for good. And in my free time, I serve at a community organisation called The Dish. It's a kind of like a soup kitchen or a food bank that operates out of a community house at Hornsby. So I cook for that and I serve, usually on about a fortnightly basis. There's a lot of disadvantaged people in our community at Hornsby, and it's a really great way for us to connect with them and to really love on them and just to show that they're really valued and appreciated.
That's beautiful. And it's so nice when you volunteer, and it just gives you a lovely feeling to help people, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's a real joy. I come away just feeling really inspired and really energized after serving there. It's a really great opportunity.
That's great. And that's called The Dish.
The Dish at Hornsby, yeah,
Hornsby. So
just near the station.
are they always looking for people? Are they always looking for
Yeah,
volunteers? Yeah.
always looking for volunteers. So, yeah, if you're interested in volunteering, just send me a message on LinkedIn, and I can connect you.
Oh, great. And we'll have your contact information later on so people can get in touch with you. I'd help if I could, but I'm in Melbourne. So, but there's similar things. There's always similar things, aren't there, everywhere to
Yeah,
help.
absolutely, absolutely.
Great. Okay, Melinda. So, without further ado, let's talk about morning routines. What got you started with a morning routine? First of all, maybe before you launch in, sorry to interrupt you, do you want to maybe talk about what a morning routine is and how you got started and just start from there?
Yeah. Look, a morning routine is a series of intentional activities that I step through every morning. Um, and it's become a habit. So for me, it's what are the actions that are going to set me up for success for the day?
Yes, so that's how you got started. But what actually inspired you to get onto the path of having a morning? Did you hear a talk about it or a podcast? Did you feel your life needed a reboot? What was it?
Yeah. So during COVID, um, I kind of found my day drifted a little bit. I would get up in the morning, I would read the news, I would kind of do what I felt I wanted to do. And being a creative person, I tend to be more spontaneous by nature. But I found I would be at my desk until late into the night because it just took me so long to get into my day. I'd be frustrated with how much I had achieved. Um, and also, my mood would vary as well. I get
Mm.
easily sidetracked and easily distracted. And I came across a podcast from a American psychologist called Dr. Louis about how to win the day, how to have a great morning routine, and it just really landed with me. And although I had been doing some of those practices, I really liked the way that she had set them out and really established clear benefits for how to set up a morning routine.
So she was the one who got you on the path, and I've actually put her details there because it's so if people want to Google her and look her up, and I actually saw a really interesting YouTube. She was interviewed by someone on their podcast, and she's fascinating. She's so inspiring. She's actually a psychologist, I think, her
Mm,
background, and she's talking about the way we think and how our thoughts don't always serve us, and she's very inspiring the way she speaks.
yeah,
But
absolutely, Susan. I got so much out of her, and I really kind of jumped in deeply into the notion of having a strong morning routine.
yeah, fantastic. So I thought that could be a good segue into you going through the steps that you take each day. And do you have to get up early, very early, to do your routine before we go into those steps? Just want to ask you.
No, I think, look, all up, it's around 30 minutes. I don't think, like, yes, there is being intentional and setting my alarm so that I do get up. Um, but it's not, I don't think it's a huge investment of time considering the benefit that I
Benefits.
get. And you look, some days it's easier than others. Some days I kind of feel a bit dazed and not very motivated, but I've got it listed down. And so even if I am waking up in a kind of haze of
In a fog.
confusion,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can just step through the
Yes,
habits one by one. So the first
yes.
thing I do is I make my bed. And it's such a small thing, but it does set me up for success because it gives me that sense of achievement straight up first thing in the day. And it's a visual thing that I can go, yep, I've done that. And then from there, I move on to making sure that I have a large glass of water because overnight our brain dehydrates and we need to have a fully hydrated brain for our brain to be at its best. So I make sure I drink a large glass of water. And then from there, I write in my gratitude journal. I keep a journal next to my laptop and I open that up and I write the date and I write what I'm grateful for. And it might be something small. It might be, the sunshine, or it might be something that has gone well the day before. And sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to come up with something, and sometimes I've got a whole list. But having gratitude is just such a foundational practice. We know from science that it builds mental resilience and it even prevents conditions like PTSD. So gratitude is a really key part of what I do. And then from there, I pray. I've got a list in my phone of things and people that I pray for. And for me, it's that connection with God, but also it's framing me around what are my priorities in life? What are really, really important to me? And making sure that I'm positioning and orienting myself to my most important goals in life. And then I read for 10 minutes because when we wake up in the morning, our brains are kind of in this plastic state. We have alpha brainwaves, which mean that information can more deeply penetrate our subconscious. And we can actually start to kind of change the way our brain is wired. Our brain is neuroplastic. And so putting the things that we want in our brain first thing in the morning is just really powerful and really important. Also, reading is helpful for empathy. If we read a novel, we get to experience somebody else's point of view, which is really powerful. I read my Bible, which I find really helpful and grounding for the rest of my day. But it's really just finding something that you read that is going to be really helpful and have a positive impact on you for the rest of the day.
Are there any other books that, before you go on, sorry, are there any other books you've read that or authors you like that inspire you? I know the Bible's a big one, but any others that you can recommend?
Yeah, I read fiction. I'm in a book club, and so I try to
Ah,
read a book, a fiction book, every 8 weeks. Um, yeah, so that's been quite good. And then a book which I'm enjoying at the moment is called The Power of Writing Things Down by Alison Fallon, and that is also been really great in terms of how we use our morning routine. Journaling is a really great practice. So when I write my gratitude diary, I do extend that journaling practice as part of that, which I find helpful. So it's really, what am I grateful for, and why?
Do you find journaling's also good for getting out of thoughts? You know, sometimes it's good just like a cathartic mechanism to get things out of you that are maybe bothering you or you're dwelling on. Do you use it for that as well, or is it more for the gratitude side of things?
Um, I have used that in the past. So if I if I have complex emotions that I really can't, I'm having trouble processing, I will write for 20 minutes a day, 3 days in a row, to try to kind of get
Wow.
those out. It's also good for creative idea development. So if, say, I'm wanting to develop a strategy for something, I don't know exactly where to start, I have
Yes.
used journaling to get those ideas out. And it's amazing um, how ideas come to us that we just had no idea that we had, either in our subconscious, or it's just could be a spiritual practice. Maybe we feel that God's speaking to us, but it's incredible what we can get out
Yeah.
by journaling.
So you start writing and you don't know where it's going to lead. You just trust the
Yeah,
process and the
it's like a
words flow.
stream of consciousness. So it's like meditating with a pen. So if
Yeah.
you find the practice of silence very difficult, it could be a good way to start, because you're it helps you to stay with the thought. With silence, for a lot of people, their mind goes everywhere and they get frustrated that they can't kind of control where their thoughts are going.
Yes.
So with journaling, or with kind of writing down your thoughts, and that kind of really focused intentional meditation with a pen, you can stay with the thought. And I find what's helpful is writing a question at the top of the page before you start, and that can help to focus.
It's fascinating. It just keeps you focused and you trust the process and the thoughts just flow.
Oh, look, our subconscious is so powerful.
Yeah.
All of our thoughts at the end of the day go into our subconscious, and our subconscious processes our thoughts and our experiences. It's just
I,
incredible.
I think Dr. Louis, was it Dr. Louis or someone was saying our subconscious is always never asleep. It's always going. It's always operating behind
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scenes. And that's where our belief system comes from. So if we can put better beliefs in there, it's like a soil. We're nurturing the soil for the flowers to grow. It's,
Yeah, I think that's a good segue to talk about affirmations. So
oh,
that's
okay.
also
Sorry, I
something else
interrupted
I
you.
do.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Okay,
no.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. You go ahead. Sorry, Melinda.
Um,
Yeah.
so I do say affirmations over myself every day. I'm fearless. I'm not a people pleaser, because we can have a lot of negative self-talk. I mean, these can be things that are deep in our subconscious. Maybe something a school teacher or a parent or a family member has said over us, um, and we can really take hold of those negative statements or negative belief systems. And it's so important that we kind of counter those beliefs and rewire our brain to um, think the thoughts that we want them to think about ourselves, be truthful thoughts about ourselves. And so I find that really helpful,
So
because
it's
it
been
helps.
very, very. Sorry, you go. I
No,
just got
no.
excited. No, you go. You go. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Because it also sets how I'm going to show up that day in my relationships. If I say to myself, I'm gentle, I'm kind, I'm courageous, I'm going to show up in my relationships that way.
So you're being very intentional, very how you want how you want to be. In other words,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We
and
can be so
and how
distracted.
yeah, and how many would you say it with? Do you say it with feeling and emotion, and do you repeat it? I mean, you have to sort of get get into that feeling. Is that how they work in the affirmations?
Yeah, so I have them listed. I stand up, and I stand up with a receiving posture, and I say them one by one, and I say them with feelings. And so this morning when I did my affirmations, I thought, oh, today I'm so excited. I've got this session with Susan. And so I reflected on how the affirmations were going to play into our time together.
Wow. 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 So can you elaborate on that?
So, yeah, so one of them is, I'm courageous, and I'm confident. And so as I was saying those affirmations over me, I was thinking, yes, I'm courageous and I'm confident, and that's how I'm going to show up today in my meeting with Susan. So it's just really being intentional. It's not a intellectual exercise, it's a deeply felt exercise.
It's the feelings. Yes. And is that, would you, and then you could link that to visualization too. You're visualizing how our chat today is going to go. Is that part of that whole process?
Yeah, I think I must admit I didn't do that, but I know visualization is just so important. I mean, a lot of people have got visual boards that they have their goals in visual form and they meditate on those every day. Um, yeah, and look, visualization of goals and visualization of how um, events and how the day is going to go, I think, is just incredibly powerful.
Yes, yes. So we've done the affirmations, which I love. What's the next step?
We have the time of silence. So what I do is I set my phone for 10 minutes of silence, and I sit in my chair and I just take a deep breath, and I have that time of silence. And sometimes it might be I might go into that with a question. Sometimes it's just being still. And for me, I just find it so calming. If I find that I'm struggling with it, that my thoughts are turning to maybe anxiety about what's going to happen during the day or um, other worries, I just um, focus on my breath, and then I focus on my physical presence in the seat. So my feet are on the ground. I can feel my back against the chair. I can listen to the sounds of the birds outside and just really concentrate on that.
And that grounds you and keeps you in that feeling of not thinking of the past, which, what do they say? Thinking of the future is anxiety, and thinking of the past is depression. So you're thinking, you're grounded in that present moment. You're aware of where you're sitting. You're hearing the birds. You just in that
It's being
feeling of
present.
peace. Yes,
Yeah, it's being present. And I think it's so important that we capture every thought, that we have that ability, that practice to capture every thought. Um, and we can just have that stillness. It's just so important. And I find if I'm going to if I'm throughout the day, say I might have a stressful phone call or a stressful meeting, and I need to kind of get back into that space again. I will set the alarm clock and I'll do it again,
to
and
go
that
back into that.
again
Yeah.
that just grounds me. It gives me that benevolent distance. That yes, I do care about a lot of things, but Um, I'm not so entangled in them that that my emotions are disrupted by them. I I have that distance, and the silence helps to give me that distance.
Yes, that's great. Do you ever do like guided meditations or doing mantras and things like that, or you don't
I
need
have
sort
done a
of that?
guided meditation, before, which I found really quite helpful, um, but I find now I don't need to do that.
Yeah, because you're able to sustain the silence on your own. You can just go into that state.
Yeah, it's so important. I think our ability to be still in solitude um, is such an important practice. I think you know we can for me, silence also helped me deal with loneliness. We can feel sometimes alone, um, but if we can sort of turn those times to solitude, which is a completely different experience, I think that can be really, really powerful.
That's really interesting. Wow. So have we covered your morning routine in a nutshell?
Yes, absolutely, Susan.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you keep that on a post-it note just to go. Well, you probably don't need to refer to it anymore. It's in your head. It's
I
a habit.
do. It's
Do
funny because
you
sometimes I do
really?
roll in, yeah, I do roll in my into my, study where it's up on the, back of the door, and sometimes Yeah, I do need to go, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because, we have our good days, we have our bad days.
Yes, so but you've got it in front of you. You can't forget. And do you find, or what are the benefits that you've noticed in your life since you've been practicing the morning
Yeah,
routine?
absolutely. I find that I have a lot more intention in how I show up in my relationships at work. I'm also not as distracted throughout the day. Um, I find that I can manage my moods better and sustain a more positive mood throughout the day. I also find I'm more empathetic towards other people. I can understand where they're coming from. I'm not pushing through so much with my goals and my objectives. I'm considering where other people are coming from, and I think that comes from the gratitude work that I do.
Mm.
Um, and I also get more done. I'm find I'm so much more productive. I used to look at the news first thing in the morning, and now I've made the decision I don't look at the news until lunchtime. And I must say, at lunchtime, it doesn't have the same power over me that it did when I was looking at it as soon as I got up.
Yeah, there's
So there's
something
a
about
range of benefits.
Yeah, and there's something about watching the news first thing. And I know a lot of people go into social media or look at their email. I don't know, there's something that brings you down if you're looking at that because there's also a lot of negativity out there. But if you start the day on a positive note, it sets the tone for the rest of the day. So
Yeah, absolutely.
you're
Um,
replacing one behavior with another one, which is a much better one.
yeah, and I think also, it's about living an intentional life. Like, we can just roll through life being distracted, pulled here and there by, demands, maybe the demands that other people place on us, and we can say, "Well, what did I do this year? What have I done over the last 5 years? Am I the person that I really wanna be?" I did this, exercise where I imagined, where the key people in my life would be in 10 years' time, such as my parents and my nieces and nephews, and I think, "Wow, the next 10 years are so valuable. I'm gonna live with intent for those next 10 years. And that means living with intent every single day and living in line with my priorities and showing up in those relationships as the person that I want to be and being focused more on them and less on what I want and what I want to achieve."
Wow, that's really huge. So it's actually totally transformed your life. It's
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit of I don't know, it's like an elixir of so I don't know. I don't even know what the expression is, but it's magical. That's the word I'm looking for. It's magical. And talking about magical, I just wanted to because before we got on today, I was talking to you a bit about. I've got the book here. This is a book that I just show people. It's called The Miracle Morning by Elrod, and that's what got me started on my morning routine. That I actually lapsed for a while, and I've got back into it now, thanks to Melinda. But having that morning routine, and Hal Elrod talks about, and I've actually got it here, a little. This is for people if you want to look up Hal, and he's got the Miracle Morning, and he's got a Facebook group too with hundreds of thousands of people, and a fantastic movie on the Miracle Morning. And he has something called Life Savers, and these are the steps: scribing, which is the writing part that Melinda spoke about, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and silence. So they're very similar. I think the only thing that's really different is he's got exercise thrown in there, Melinda, and you said for you prefer exercise later in the day. But it's you've got to you've got to customize it to what you like.
Absolutely. It needs to be a win for you. It has to be what you want to do, what works for you. And I think it's gradually introducing these things. Um, like, I found that I built on it, my routine slowly, bit by bit. And yeah, and so in time I may introduce exercise, but at the moment it's a bridge too far.
Yeah, you've got to do what suits you. But the main thing is you're exercising, even if it's not in the morning. The main thing is you're exercising, and I think we have to be kind on ourselves and not be so rigid that we have to do everything to a prescribed format. There's no hard and fast rules.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what works for us.
Yeah, that's right. Let me ask you, what are some questions that people ask you about morning routines? Any frequently asked questions, so to speak?
I think The big one is how do you sustain silence for 10 minutes? Some people try it and then they find that it's just too hard and they give up. And I think, for me, I think that we can try to do things or we can train ourselves to do things. Training is more important than trying. And so, what I suggest is doing 1 minute a day. And then when you feel you can do 1 minute, increase that to 2 minutes and then 3 minutes and then 5 minutes and then 10 minutes and slowly build that up. Um, I
Yes.
find that, yeah, just you just can't eat the elephant all at once.
No, it's one bite at a time. That's how you eat it. You're right. So I like that because you just start. You dip your toe in the water, and like you said, 1 minute, and then you keep adding, and then before you look around, you've done your 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
great. And what about getting into the habit? How do you recommend? How do you advise people to get into a habit or to stop procrastinating? What's your advice on that front?
Yeah, I think, it's success starts the night before. So it's making sure that you've set your alarm, that you've done everything to make it easy for you to, do your morning routine. So it might be, um, having a list, which is what I have, so that when you stumble out, it's there for you. Maybe having the glass of water already on the table, so it's easy for you to drink. Um, it's just being really, really intentional and setting yourself up for success. And it's probably introducing the habits one by one. Maybe start with making your bed for a week, and then the next thing could be bringing in the gratitude journaling, and then week 3 you could bring in something else, and doing it in the order that is easiest for you. So do the
I like
easy
that.
things first.
I like that. I like that approach of gradually, surely, I mean, just slowly but surely, and you'll get there rather than saying, oh, day one, I'm going to do the whole lot in one hit because it's not really realistic for people. And I think that's like anything, like New Year's resolutions, you try and do everything at once and you fail. You
Yeah.
just make that start and then add in another step, maybe every 2 weeks or every week or whenever you're ready, you add another part in and and then it's more sustainable, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Melinda, let me ask you. This is a question I like to ask my guests on these interviews. If you could go back in time to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you have for that young woman?
So as a young person, and look, and even now, I'm quite achievement oriented. I want to get stuff done, and I do tend to focus on the task more than the relationship. And when I was an 18-year-old, I really felt that tasks were really important, and also that being accurate was really, really important. And interestingly, I read a book at the time called How to Win Friends and Influence People by
Dale
Dale
Carnegie.
Carnegie.
Yes,
Really
yes,
famous book. And I read
yes.
that as a young person and I just thought, well, I disagreed with it. I thought, no, look, it's really more important to get things done. And if people stand in my way, um, then I'm just going to push through. And then I picked up that book, the same book a year ago, and I read it and I just thought, wow, I so agree with everything in the book because really it's all about, how we make people feel and influencing people. And it's only by getting them on board that they're going to partner with us, that they're going to work with us. And ultimately, relationships are so much more important than tasks. Um, and because at the end of our life, we may have achieved a lot, but if we haven't got strong relationships, what is life for? So I've completely kind of shifted my thinking on that, and that would be the advice that I give my 18-year-old self to prioritize relationships over tasks. I mean, we also know in corporate life that the people who succeed are the people who are effective at relationships. And so really it's against really that way of thinking is important for all aspects of our life.
That's so true. What they say, emotional intelligence is more important than the intellectual intelligence. That's getting on with, or regulating our emotions, of course, but getting on with people and just being sensitive to other people's emotions and being empathetic. That's priceless.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think I'm going to pick up that book. I read that book years ago, that How to Win Friends and Influence People. But, with the classics, you could read them years later and get something. You can always get something out of a book on a second, a third, or fourth reading. So that's fascinating. Now, Melinda, what's the best way people should get in contact with you? I've got your LinkedIn information. Is that the best way if people
Yeah,
want to?
absolutely. Yep, people can send me a message on LinkedIn. That's probably the best approach.
Wonderful. Okay. So I just want to let everyone know, and I'll put up on the 21st of September, I'll be interviewing Thomas Jajesnica, and we'll be talking about all things meditation. Thomas is the founder of Mr. Meditate, and he runs workplace sessions. He does a lot for NAB and different organisations, and how the power of meditation, which is similar to what we've been saying today, Melinda, on its amazing benefits. And he talks about how it helps brain fog, sleep issues, productivity, a better culture, a better attitude, focus, lack of not getting distracted. Meditation is actually a miracle pill as well as a morning routine. Meditation and silence are really very powerful. So please join us on the 21st of September at the same time, 12 o'clock. Melinda, I want to thank you again for your time and your wonderful tips and advice on setting up a morning routine. Thank you.
And thank you, Susan. It's been a great discussion, and I've come away with a lot of insights as well. So thank you for the
Oh,
time today.
I'm so glad. Thanks again, Melinda. And thanks everyone for watching. And please join us again for the next interview. And we'll see everyone again soon. Bye for now.